Black like me. Black like me. Black like me.
You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex Gee, a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. Gee.
Hey, good people. Shit. Welcome to another exciting episode, or another episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex Gee. My mama just passed away on January 1st of this year. And, I just like to process out loud on my podcast. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm here with my sister Lilada, and I'm just dedicating this episode to my mom. And so this episode is just, Black Like Mama. That's what this episode is. And so my sister is fellow podcaster, social worker, entrepreneur, Reverend podcast. Did I say podcaster already?
You did, but say it again.
Podcaster.
There you go.
What's the name of your podcast?
Defending Black Girlhood.
Defending Black Girlhood. And we're sort of cross-pollinating today because you're going to use this on your podcast as well. But we're here just to process, to think out loud. This is still fresh in our memories and in our hearts. And so we're just here just to talk a little bit. It's unfortunate that we only have lemonade. I really wanted to record this at night so we could, sip a little, something that we could toast with. But before we start, Lilada, how are you doing?
That's a very loaded question. I don't know. I know something is really, really different in the world with my mom being gone. I feel the physicality of her absence, and then what that means for me being the top generation of our family now on my mom's side.
Because she was the last sibling, so there's no more aunts or uncles.
Not on my mom's side. So it's like the responsibility of being the top tier generation in your family.
That's deep,
I feel that responsibility as well.
So I'm really appreciative that we have this time to process because, it's serious moments. We laugh at funny moments. We cry. So we've got a weird sense of humor in our family and a whole gamut of emotional responses. So who knows where this is going. But I really appreciate you coming in so we can just talk and process a little bit just about the importance just of mothering in our lives and lessons learned and how it has shaped who we are, but also directs where we're going. So part of this is just to help us to think out loud in the process. A bit. So let me just jump in by just asking, and I like your response when I ask how you're doing. People who don't know me well will probably get the "I'm doing okay, I'm making it" response. People who do know me well, and I'm sure I'm guilty of this because I've been thinking, people have been losing parents forever.
Right.
I didn't know people were walking around feeling like this. Like I would have written more cards. I would have made more meals. I would have made more visits. I feel very special and isolated. And I think, well, wait a minute. There are people in this restaurant, in this movie theater, in this church who know this feeling. So people who ask me how I'm doing, and if I know them well, I will say, not well. Even on days I'm not falling down and bawling, which is not every day. That's only been a couple of times. Something still feels off kilter. Even this room feels slanted a little bit. Like if I had something on the table, it will roll off. And some friends, meanwhile, they're like, "So Alex, you doing okay, right? Are you doing okay?" Like they're suggesting the answer. And they mean well because they don't want you to be in the dumps. And honestly, I don't know if I want to be better right now. I think I need to feel this and to be in this space. But the strange thing is, think about all of our friends who know this feeling.
Right.
David, Tracy, family, John, Jerry, Renee, Linda, Pam. Like I think about all of our friends, Fabu, who know this feeling. I didn't know they were feeling this.
Right.
I didn't know this was this.
Right. I agree.
I thought this was that. I thought it was something else, but this is this. And I mean, in some ways it gives me some hope. In other ways, it's like, when does it stop? Like when do things really feel normal? So I don't even know if that's a goal.
Right.
But I also have heard people say, embrace grief because that comes because of the depth of love for someone. And I think those things are kind of important too. They're going over my head a little bit. I think I got to get through a whole lot of other things. So Black Like Me listeners, Mom has dealt with Alzheimer's probably for the last 14 years. Lilada is the family truth teller. She's the whistleblower. And so
Black sheep.
so she told me something's going on with Mom. We were driving back from Milwaukee. We were on 30 coming back to Madison. She didn't know whether to take the Wisconsin-Dells sign or the Janesville sign or to go straight in Madison. I mean, that's kind of a confusing intersection anyway.
It is.
But if you've been doing it for 50 years, you know which way to go. And you just said the confusion let you know that she was struggling with linear thinking. So I remember we went to a restaurant on Park Street and talked about it. And of course, she denied it and just thought, I mean, and Mom was smart. So Mom could weasel out of stuff. Mom, first of all, she flat out denied it. But then she said, I've been holding a lot of stuff in my head for a long time. I can't remember everything. And in some ways that made sense.
Right.
Well, like, has she used up her storage? Like, I know on my laptop I have. I've had to get Google. I've had to expand Google, whatever that stuff is today so I can get more photos. I had to do it today. So maybe she's right. Maybe she's reached her maximum limit. But when it was confirmed, I think a clock just started ticking because they told us there's a 10-year lifespan for dementia. I didn't know that because I just thought that was a fancy name for memory issues. But when they told us that, I thought, well, like loss of memory kills you? But there's other things that take place. So I think it hasn't just been the loss, but the slow loss.
Yes.
And so we made a decision. Do you remember that we would mourn for a long time when she's gone, but while she was here, we would celebrate and have fun. And so I think that's delayed. We've heard of delayed gratification.
Right.
We've experienced delayed mourning. Does that term feel fair?
It does, but at the same time, I feel like I did mourn all those years. And
You did?
yeah. And it puts me in this weird space where the mom we knew before Alzheimer's and the mom we knew after Alzheimer's almost feel like two different people to me. And it feels like the mom before Alzheimer's, it feels like she didn't die. It feels like she just kind of faded away.
Good description.
And then the mom after Alzheimer's, she's the one who died. And so I have different feelings. So like when I see old photos or old videos of Mom, it makes me happy. Because, I haven't seen her in a long time. Because we took a lot of videos and photos and things like that. But I didn't, at the time, sit up and look at them. There was no reason to look at them while she was here.
Right.
And so looking at them in the after fact, it's like, oh, yeah. I forgot about her. It seems so long ago. So I feel like it's two levels of mourning, two levels of loss, two levels of reality for me. So
that's a really good description, and I'm sure people who are listening whose parents are either in the throes of dementia or loved ones or been in it for a long time. I mean, who are just finding out or been in it for a long time could probably relate a lot to what you're saying because, people say like it was they say, oh, you're in for a long journey, but I don't think I quite knew what they meant.
right.
Well, there's that's again, I just have to say, Lilada, that's a really good description of this whole process. And you and I made a decision to do more of a private, committal type of process with Mom, so we could put off the planning for a little bit later. But that's given us good space to just heal and talk and laugh and watch video. I don't think people have always given themselves time to do that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the part I dreaded when I thought about Mom passing. I dreaded the funeral and all of it that comes with that. I dreaded it, as opposed to now I'm looking forward to the celebration of life.
Because it will really be a celebration and not just.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad that we've given ourselves that space. That piece is important, and what makes some of this unique is that there's pressure on Black people to do funerals quickly because we discolor when we're out. I mean, when we pass away, we can't just put things out. I don't know how that works for other folks, but it's very noticeable with African American dark-skinned people that you've got about two weeks. Otherwise, it can just be an experience where the person doesn't look very favorable, and it just makes it even harder. But we found a way to get through that part so that the celebration wouldn't be dreadful. I think that piece is really important, so we get to celebrate our life.
I agree.
So speaking of that, let's look at some of the things that we do celebrate that we want to think about. When we just think about Mom's upbringing and who she is, what makes her memorable, or her life memorable? And I don't mean, like, let's just go back to her origins. Like, what's memorable about even where or how she grew up? Like, what things come to mind that people wouldn't think with this woman with a master's degree and a career and successful children, successful family?
Well, I think the most memorable thing is that she was raised by a woman who was raised by a slave. And the fact that she was a sharecropper. She
being Mom, or she being our grandmother?
My mom. Your mother, I guess, too.
Your mama?
No, your mama.
I don't play that now. That's the first person. I wonder what would happen the first time somebody said your mom after Mom passed.
Yikes.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a carry and conceal. So unique is that she was raised by sharecropper, which made Mom.
She was a sharecropper. It wasn't she wasn't playing in the fields while the grown folks were picking cotton.
Right.
She picked cotton, and she had a quota that she had to meet as a child.
Yes.
And the fact that she was a migrant worker as well. I think, the fact that her life spanned the most crucial post-slavery incidents to Black people.
You're right.
Being born in 1939, all the things that she experienced, school segregation and
the Great Depression,
and civil rights,
war,
and just all
wars.
the things, Black people not having the vote, and all those things.
To seeing a Black president.
To seeing a Black, yes.
You put your finger on something very key, and I've heard you say this before. You said Mom's generation, men and women who are passing away now in their 80s or 90s, were born in a very segregated America. Not like we aren't segregated, but
right.
But in a legally segregated America. But their parents lived through Depression. Many of them were sharecroppers, which meant they picked cotton, to going to integrated schools. Like, I'm thinking, Mom came of age. Like, Mom turned 18 in 1957, right in there. Brown versus Board of Education didn't happen to the mid-50s. So, like, Mom was almost grown before it was legal for Black kids to be educated with white kids. So when you think about the arc of that and what that meant for home ownership and everything else, political power, to fast forwarding, to getting a master's degree and meeting dignitaries and traveling around the world.
Because they was poor.
Yeah, not cute poor.
Not cute poor, not living in subsidized housing poor. Poor. My grandmother had holes in her shoes. She put cardboard because she couldn't afford to buy new shoes. Hand-me-downs, like poor.
Butcher your meat, get your eggs, poor if you have a bad crop, you messed up.
Right.
And so the fact that she came out of those things and didn't allow them to fully choke out who she was. Like, Mom would tell us the story that I don't know where this happens when you're picking cotton as a kid, but that she could name and spell all the capitals of U.S. states by the time she got to kindergarten. Like we were talking about this. Like, well, who taught her that?
Right.
But she could. The educational system, integrated, whatever you want to call it, is way different. Ask your average kindergartner what the state of Wisconsin is.
Right.
Much less spelling it.
Ask your average adult what the state capital is of any state that they don't live in.
Exactly. That's a Vermont.
Right. I have no damn idea.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a good question.
I noticed that when you name the white states, that Jeremy raised his hand.
Oh, but there are Black states?
Mississippi.
Oh, okay, I got you. Jeremy,
Alabama.
No, Jeremy said he was not saying anything. So mom comes out of this reality, but what we find is that mom's an intellectual, and that she's smart. I remember this is in her book. My mom wrote a poetry book, and we'll have to put a link in here too for people that want to get a copy of that. But she wrote a poem. You remember how it goes? I saw a little bunny go hop, 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 hop.
Said little bunny would stop, stop, stop.
Yeah, so it's really cute. Like she saw this bunny outside. She wrote about it. And the teacher's like, where'd you get this? And she said, I wrote it. No, you didn't. You couldn't have possibly written this. So she gets spanked in school. Beat in school in front of the other kids because she's a poet. And because the teacher couldn't imagine that she had a child more literate than herself.
Oh my.
so I mean, that's the reality that you're threatened by the brilliance. So
of like a 7-year-old.
Well, no, younger than that. She wrote this in like kindergarten or first. So like probably 6. So it's not a shock to us that when her family moves from Haytime, Missouri to Chicago, that she drops out of school at 14 years old, her freshman year of high school, because she probably was smarter than her teachers. Like, Lilada, tell me the story about this. So she drops out at 14 years old, probably because she was bored, because she probably got tired of teachers saying, where'd you get that?
Well, and I'll tell you 2 interesting stories. One is the fact that she took an aptitude test as a freshman in high school.
Oh, yes.
And it said that at her testing level, she should be a sophomore in college.
At 13 years old.
At 13, 14 years old, and what all that would mean, self-study and reading and all that stuff that she must have done on her own.
Because she's only had middle school behind her, or junior high.
Right.
She's a freshman in high school.
Right.
No algebra, no trig, no world history.
Exactly.
And it says she should have been a sophomore?
Sophomore in college. But now here's the other thing. When she did go back to take her GED, which she passed with flying colors, the teacher that she had that taught the GED class asked her if she would take the GED test for her because she didn't even have her GED. She was teaching the class.
wait, I don't remember that story.
She did not have her GED, and she asked Mom if she would take the test for her.
So she was trying to get my mama to be Mike on Suits. She wanted my mama to be the black female version of Mike.
Yes.
Who was Harvey?
I don't know who Harvey was.
Okay. So, did Mom do it?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't remember that part.
It wasn't beneath her, I'm sure. She probably just didn't pay her enough money.
Right.
But that's how do you teach the GED class and don't have it?
She found it quite ironic.
That is very interesting. So then, okay, I'll see you, and I'll see. How does it go?
I'll see you, and I'll raise you.
And I'll raise you one. So Mom came to Madison, Wisconsin, to visit childhood friends in 1970. And Wisconsin was known for recruiting older black students.
Non-traditional students
from all around the country, particularly southern states, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, northern states, Chicago, Detroit, places. And so she came to visit them, saw the campus, and loved it. It was beautiful. She saw kids going to school barefoot. There were protests. She took the entrance exam to the University of Wisconsin and crushed it. But they wouldn't admit her. Do you remember why?
Because she didn't have a GED.
Because she didn't have a GED. So that's when she went back and took the GED so that she could get admitted. So as a freshman in high school, her aptitude shows that she should be a sophomore. So she's 13. When she's 30, she takes an entrance exam. She wasn't in classes. She wasn't studying. She was a key punch operator, whatever that is. I guess it's like data entry or something in the 60s. She takes it and crushes it. So she's competing with 18-year-old kids out of the best high schools in Wisconsin and around the country, but has to go get her GED in order to get in. So that jumping back and forward, those are things that make Mom really memorable. Those are things that and I'll get into this later, things that we look at and think, what are the lessons of our life? But just that intelligence. And I mean, we can just suppose, Lilada, I guess we have some historical data that will put some meat on the bones. But how is America dealing with a single mom who's going through divorce, who's got 2 young kids, no high school education, but this great aptitude, hasn't gotten into college yet, so she's doing these menial jobs at Motorola and other places where she's probably making 75, 80 cents an hour, but she has all this brilliance. What in America is calling out to her, telling her that she can be more than what she was doing? Nothing. Like that all had to come from inside, because they weren't like billboards saying, hey, you can be anything you want to be, until she came to Madison and saw her peers. She saw other smart black people going to college, and she just said, hey.
Right.
And then went back to Chicago after that vacation and packed us up and moved us to Madison immediately. But just think about how welcoming or not America was for black female intellectuals in 1970. What do you think that was like?
You know, you're talking about the early 70s, and we're just coming through the civil rights. 5-6 years.
Right.
You know, and so I think there was a level of America that was, let's give these Negroes a chance. You know, let's give them a chance and see what they can do. You know, we always know there's always the other side.
Right.
And I think that's the community that she entered in. Let's give them a shot and see what they do with it. I think that's what she met when she came here to Madison and came to UW campus.
That she walked into opportunity.
She walked into opportunities, whether it was one eye open, one eye closed, suspect, let's see, or if we give them a chance and they don't succeed, then at least we know that we tried or what have you. So I think she walked into a space that was at least somewhat open.
Sure.
And then she made her space. She took up space. She held space, as people say. She held space for herself in that world.
Right.
You know, and I think for her, from her point of view, I think she felt like she found her people, because she's always been an intellectual.
Right.
So I think she found these are my people, you know, who learning for learning's sake, you know, and debate and
all that.
All of that. So I think she found a part of herself that she had been looking for a long time.
And you know, what I think we're good at is holding the tension of mom's great attributes, but also mom's flaws. I mean, we're not trying to make people think mom could walk on water. I think the truth of the matter is that mom came to Madison and said, "You in college?" I think you know your mama. I think your mama came to Madison and said, "You go to UW Madison?"
Then I know I can.
You about to graduate in a year? Interesting.
Yeah.
I think mom came out and realized, dag,
if she can do it, I know I can.
That's what she really thought. So mom realized that that not only was she smart, she was smarter than the smart people. That's what that's what your mama really thought. I think if she thought she was just sort of running with them, she might have stutter stepped a little bit. But I think when she came and interacted with people and heard them splitting verbs and and all that kind of stuff that would mispronouncing stuff that would get on her nerves, I think she said, "All right, where's that application?"
Right. And I think she always knew she was smart. She always knew that. And it didn't take education for her to know that she was intelligent.
Like a true intellectual.
Right.
They're not defined by their careers and their paychecks.
Or their diplomas or report cards. So she always knew it. I just think she needed to get a toehold in order to take it to another direction.
And I think the lessons, like if we just start at that story, like if we don't go any further, if we just think about what are the lessons mom's life, what lessons did her life teach us? Not just verbal lessons. She said, all right, watch out for this. Keep this in mind. When you just think about 30 years from sharecropper, 20 years, because she didn't leave Missouri until she was 10. She enrolled in Wisconsin at 30. The trajectory of going from living on, what was it called, the Gangenbeck farm
plantation.
It was a plantation where they could own you, rape you, hurt you. To make that arc from Southeast Missouri to an intellectual black girl on the west side of Chicago who loved Elvis and used to sing about his blue suede shoes and feeling ostracized because her peers weren't reading what she was reading, wasn't listening to the music that she was listening to. And then so she's relegated to this low paying job, but never relented from being an intellectual to then acting on it 20 years later. One of the lessons that I get from her life is you don't give up on aspirations just because the key you hold doesn't seem to open that door right now. That you might be waiting for a better time, but she didn't find excuses in that. And that's a place where I want to draw on the strength of her memory to hold the truth of who she is until she was with the right people who could hold it with her.
Yeah.
Is an amazing thing. And I feel like a lot of people give up before that opportunity comes. And in the world, they've been waiting for a long time, but she waited for 20 years, but was still who she was when that opportunity came in.
Right.
That's not why she came to Madison on vacation. I think it was just to get away. And that piece is pretty amazing. So from that lesson, I just learned, I don't want to walk through some open doors. It's time to walk through things, and I don't want to be tentative. And when it was that time, she walked through those doors like she belonged there. She didn't walk through UW's doors like, I don't know if I should be here. I mean,
She wasn't apologetic.
she put that straightening comb down and grew that afro. She bought her some Western African garb. She would go to school barefoot. I mean, Mom was a black hippie. I mean, she would, whatever stuff students were doing, she was doing. What they were reading, she was reading. But they were smoking, she was
Not
smoking.
my mama.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so. Whatever they were smoking, she was smoking.
Oh, yikes.
She didn't like it because it left her out of control, because your mom enjoyed being in control more than being high.
I had never noticed that.
Oh, did she like to be in control?
Yes.
Oh, honey. Her name was Verline Gee.
Yeah.
Janet Jackson sang a song about your mama. Oh,
Hilarious.
my goodness. So what do you think about when you think about the arc from going from sharecropper to college student? Like, what lessons from that arc do you want your daughter to exhibit?
I think that what you believe about yourself is what takes you from one place to the next. And I think there was something that Mom believed about herself that had her cross that bridge. The other thing is, and I'm not a spokesperson for reading, but, reading makes a difference. When you are in a disenfranchised life, reading opens up the world to you.
Girl, come on. You sound like a reading is fundamental commercial.
But
that's what you're saying is so true. Come on.
And I think reading really opened up the world to her. She used to read all the time. Other kids be outside playing. She'd be in her room reading books. And I think her mind was transformed before her life was.
Wait, say that again, but say it slow.
Her mind was transformed before her life was. And I think a lot of that transformation came from reading.
Wow. Right, because the world she saw offered her nothing. What did she look out the window and see? People becoming auto mechanics or waitresses, and like what did she see in her real world?
Maids, and she saw poverty all around her. And no real way out. And I think reading saved her.
Wow.
And propelled her.
So that would be your message to anyone, your daughter and others. Read. Expand your mind.
Reach beyond where you are, whether you're doing it through reading nowadays, you could do it through social media, but have a different expectation for your life than where you are. And that will propel you to be ready for opportunities. When they come, it will propel you to create opportunities where there are none. When you believe that your life hasn't been set for you, like your circumstances are not your finality.
Right. When in her early 20s, by the time Mom was born, I mean, in Mom's early 20s, by the time she was married, she went to Mississippi. And they were trying to coach her. The family members that are from Mississippi, they were trying to say, no, This is what you do when somebody white comes towards you. This is like before I was born, which was 63, so maybe 62 or so. You say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I guess that wasn't her reality in Missouri, Southeast Missouri, or she didn't remember. But it certainly wasn't in Chicago. So when she went to Chicago, they were very afraid that she was going to get them shot. Mm-hmm. But I remember she told the story that she went into a restaurant. It wasn't a McDonald's, but it seemed like in my mind it was. It was a chain. Mm-hmm. And I remember she said, the guy said with this deep Southern kind of drawl, "I'm sorry, ma'am, colored folks not allowed in here." And she said, "What?" And he said it again, "Colored folks ain't allowed in here." She started laughing because she thought it wasn't real, because that wasn't her reaction. So they're dragging her out because they're thinking, okay, this little light-skinned, smart, book-reading, uppity Chicago Negro, this is what like her family's thinking. We're going to get her back to Chicago before she get us lynched down here, because you laughing at white people. If you might wink or look at them, you better not, whistle. Right. But you don't laugh. No. And white people get in a car, drive 3 miles away, and then maybe you say, and then you keep driving. But you don't stand there. And she like lost it laughing. That she said they had to grab her and pull her out before something happened to her and them. So again, the whole world in some ways had been conditioned that this was the reality of America. The South had Southern whites, Southern blacks. No people in the North knew that was the reality. Black people in the North knew. That's why they left. My father was tired of that stuff, which is why he left Mississippi, because he was a sharecropper also. But all of what was happening in the world did not make her think that she was less than. And people think that black children being educated alongside white children will somehow, through osmosis, give them a greater sense of open-mindedness, superiority, excellence. But mom had not been educated with white people, but never thought she was less than white people.
Right.
That comes after integration. And that's a lesson mom taught me. I might get into that a little bit later. So even with her limited experiences, she did not enter, this is 1961, 62. Not only were black people not allowed in that place, black people were not boldly going to the ballot box. There was a lot of things black people weren't doing.
Oh, yeah. And they were getting killed.
They were getting killed.
For just registering to vote. I
mean, and don't forget, what's fresh in black people's minds who live in Chicago from Mississippi is Emmett Till. Because Emmett Till was from Chicago.
Right.
And so that was fresh. That's like talking about Michael Brown or in Madison community, Tony Robinson. Like everyone knew who these folks were. These were Midwestern names of black men who were killed and who were unarmed. Emmett Till was that kind of legacy. I remember as a child hearing people talk about Emmett Till like they knew him, like he was someone. Well, he lived 4 years before I was born, so it was real. But even in that reality, in Mississippi, mom still had this sense of superiority.
Yeah.
Or I would at least say equality. Let me say
at least
no, superiority.
No, she thought she was superior to that man who said colored folks ain't loud.
Right, because she knew in her mind.
Like, you can't even speak English correctly.
Because you know what? Because what mom would have said was, spell colored folks not loud in here.
She would have said, you mean colored folks are not allowed in here.
That would have got our mama killed.
That's what you
and
meant
we wouldn't
to
be
say.
here. And that's what she would have said. She would say,
Because she loved correcting people and their English. Yes.
And their ignorance.
Yes. I mean, there's a funny story where I had my Uncle Bobby, send a message to mom. And he pronounced some word really weird. Now, this is mom deep in Alzheimer's.
Deep in. Like, she wasn't just starting. She was committed.
Like, if I asked her what's my name, she wouldn't have told me.
Right.
But as she's listening to this video of Uncle Bobby mispronouncing a word, she corrects him.
on the video call.
It was recorded.
But
she corrected his English, and we played it for her like 10 times. And every time she would correct his English.
Oh, she would have eaten that boy up at that little Wendy's or whatever it was. Wendy's, White Castle, whatever it was. She would have corrected him.
You know.
Now in our 9th season, our award-winning podcast has a reach throughout the United States of America and over 80 countries around the world. Just want to give a quick shout out to my dedicated team of people who are helping me to change the conversations around race. Now, when you support Black Like Me podcast, you are supporting the work that they are doing to help me in creating better quality content, better marketing strategies, bigger and better production, a better interactive experience, but more importantly, a better society through the impact and the work of people who listen to this podcast. You can just click the link below to see the various levels of support that we offer and decide what works for you. Now, those of you who become patrons of this podcast, you'll have access to exclusive content like extended interviews, bonus rants, video chats with me. You'll also have a chance to join conversations with me via Zoom with other people around the country about the subject of race. To become a patron, again, all you've got to do is click the link below and you can support these important conversations and the work that this podcast is doing. I want to thank you in advance.
One thing I want to share is we reflected on Mom. I'd be remiss not to say that she and I had a troublesome relationship. You know, we had a multifaceted relationship, I think I should say. You know, and I bring that up because I think it's really important, particularly for daughters, to work out their issues with their mothers, and particularly for daughters who have daughters, to learn how to heal that mother wound, to learn how to do that. It's important to take the time. You know, Mom and I talked a lot. I talked a lot about the things that she had done that were painful for me in life. And I talked to her about those things, and I worked on those things, and I went to therapy for those things, and I took medication for those things. So that now that she's gone, I'm not left holding this burden of unresolved issues.
And unresolvable issues.
Yes. You know, to be able to work through those issues. And I think sometimes, you know, especially the last couple of weeks, man, I wish I had worked through that journey sooner. But, you know, it takes what it takes for you to get to where you are and where you
work
need
through
to be.
it. That's what's important.
You know, but to be able to let go and to forgive and to still have a relationship and embrace that with my mom is so important. And I think for your listeners, I think it's just important. Resolve issues. And if you are a parent listening to this and you know you done fucked up your kids' minds a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Fucked up their lives a little bit. Get it right. Because it shouldn't be on the child to make it right. But but as the person who needs to heal, you do what you need to do for yourself. But so I'm talking to parents to go back and heal things that you know, admit things, you know what I'm saying? Call things out, ask for forgiveness for things, and for kids to feel like you can talk to your parents about that. So you're just not left with it. Because if you're left with it, all you do is pass it on.
That's all you do with it.
That's all you do.
Because it doesn't just go away.
Right. You pass it on to your kids, you pass it on to your spouse, you pass it on to the kids that you're teaching in your classroom, your parishioners that you're preaching to, whatever in your life. You know,
on your social work caseload?
Yes. And I'm really, really thankful for that.
And I'm really proud of you for doing that, because that had to be one of the hardest things, painful things, probably after childbirth. I mean, that was, and it does give you that space, because then that means you're available for your family.
Right.
And so I'm glad that you said that, because, you know, the podcast is called Black Like Me, which means people listen for cultural nuances and things that are unique and different. But the listeners also lean in to figure out what's similar. And parent-child dynamics are similar.
Yes.
And this is where people need to listen to what you're saying, irrespective of their cultural or ethnic heritage.
Absolutely.
Lilada, was Mom born at the right time for her persona? You know, sometimes people will say they were born ahead of their time. Was Mom born in the right time?
Oh, gosh, that's a really good question. In some ways, I'll say she was, because she was able to kind of traverse the journey, the path that she had to take.
Right.
In other ways, no. You know, I don't know if she was born in the right time or place. Like, had she started school in Chicago instead of down south, would it have been different for her? Would she have, but then she might have graduated high school but never went to college.
Right.
So I feel like her path was her path.
Right.
And I think she lived it out well.
But she was a little ahead of her time?
I think she was ahead of her time. I think, she had superior intelligence. So I think that always puts you a little bit ahead of your time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Because you think differently. It makes you operate differently.
Makes you see the world differently.
Right, than the status quo, But I think she lived it out.
I think in some ways, you're right. She had what it took to live in that time. Mm-hmm. But I do think about someone of her capabilities born today. Like let's just think for a minute. The stuff where Mom was way ahead of her time. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Mom making us drink 2% milk in the 70s?
I don't remember when the last time I had whole milk.
Because
I can't even remember.
It turned from pink or red to blue because she read someplace that all that fat wasn't good for you. Mm-hmm. She started us eating whole wheat bread in the 70s when our friends were eating white Wonder bread.
My Lord.
With, fried fish and spaghetti. And wheat bread just don't taste the same. Like, you can't sop with wheat bread. You can try to pretend, but it doesn't taste the same.
Not the same.
Do you remember that we were eating salads? That's when you had to take those little hidden seasons vials and put a little bit of oil in it, the seasoning,
yes.
and then you shake it up.
Right, I remember.
Mom had me eating salads in the 70s. So 2% milk, wheat bread, salads. That's the stuff that she was doing in the 70s. She also said, if you get a sinus headache, Alex, hold one nostril down and inhale and hold the other. There's this whole thing around what that's called, with this alternate breathing to help with migraines. But Mom was telling us that stuff in the 70s. So in some ways, I feel like she was like ahead of herself. Like she, like this probably doesn't even matter to you, but Mom, she worked like putting what would be equivalent to motherboards of computers now. But like Mom taught me how to read resistors, like their colors and how to memorize it. Like there's a saying to remember red, orange, yellow, black, like the order of this, and how do you heat sink a capacitor before you solder it.
My eyes are rolling in the back of my head right now.
She would help me with my electronics work by showing me how to heat sink, because I would have to bring it home and borrow her soldering gun to make it.
I do remember she always had a soldering gun.
She always had a soldering gun.
For all occasions in which soldering might be necessary.
She would take me to I almost flipped and said Red Lobster, Radio Shack, Red Lobster too.
Yeah.
She would take me to Radio Shack because I would buy those 151 sets. But so even after I got married, as technology for VCRs, DVRs, DVDs, all that stuff, I would call Mom sometime to come over to my house and hook my components, my system up, because she would play until she got right. So in some ways, I think her love for technology and her way to read stuff made her ahead of her time. She told me, and she probably was having a little Alzheimer's then, she said, you need to exercise some because belly fat is really dangerous. Like not just weight in general, but like across your midsection. Oh, now people, you're reading this stuff about belly fat.
Shit.
Do you remember this later? Who's the first person we heard say, if you want to lose weight, you need to eat a lot of smaller meals instead of like skipping meals?
Yeah.
Mom was telling us this.
Yeah.
Like, eat a lot of smaller meals. It'll help your metabolism. I was like, Mom, I was thinking to myself, I wouldn't say it to her because I appreciated my teeth. But that don't make sense. Like,
right.
That's more food. No, if you either stop eating or eating smaller amounts, she's like, no, because your body will think it's starving, so it'll store it up. So eat like 5 or 6 smaller meals. What are people telling you today?
That's the exact same thing. I think we have to also talk about 2 things about Mom.
Yes.
1, she was funny as hell.
Yes, she was.
And 2,
yes,
she didn't bite her tongue.
No, she didn't.
She was very outspoken, very opinionated.
Was she? I didn't notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Have you noticed the sky is blue?
Oh my goodness. And so she was funny.
She was hilarious and quick-witted, and
You know, I'm gonna work with my producers to see if we can put a couple of videos that we've used on social media to see if maybe we can upload it to a YouTube channel so we can put a couple of links. So because people are hearing us tell these stories, I would love for them to see a couple of links of Mom. But does anything funny come to mind? I mean, I know it's so many.
So many things. She just was very quick with it. So she always was just like spot on with a comeback. You know, even if you weren't expecting it, she'd come with something that would hit you upside your head. You know, but she was
because she wasn't goofy funny. It was like
no, she was intellectually funny.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she would have loved someone like Dave Chappelle and other, you know,
smart comics. Cat Williams, she would have loved. Cat Williams.
She loved George Carlin.
Yeah, he was an intellectual comic.
Yeah,
I
loved
would describe
Carlin.
him that way.
Yeah. But that's how she was. But she was really and she was outspoken. She didn't care where she was. If she didn't
care who you was.
if you tried to bring it to her. I remember I had a teacher once who gave me she gave me a D. She gave me a D in language arts. And she said, well, hell. For folks who know my mom, this is like before her church lady days. She's like, hell, that means he can't read. And I know he can read because I told him so. She went to the school and the teacher was black. So she's like, are you saying my baby can't read? And I didn't even want to go in the teacher because mom would like argue with the teachers. Somehow, I don't know if the teacher did it or mom bullied the teacher. But remember my friend Ron Davis?
Yeah.
The teacher said, oh, I must have gotten Alex mixed up with Ron. So mom was like, what the fuck? This racist. She a black woman and getting black children mixed up? Looking like Barney Fife. And as I got older, I thought about it. She did look like Barney Fife. She looked like Don Knotts.
Oh, my God.
But for her to say, sitting up in that classroom with her racist self looking like Barney Fife, getting
God.
two black kids mixed up. Yeah.
Yeah, she.
I don't know if that helped my grades or not.
Nah, she didn't back down. But, you know, that made me think about this other story about her. I remember when I was about third grade, maybe fourth, I was in history class, and the teacher was teaching about slavery, and the way she presented it was that, you know, George Washington, that Abe Lincoln freed us from slavery, great Abe Lincoln and stuff like that. So I was out at recess with two of my black girlfriends, and this little white girl walked up to me, and she said, you should be grateful to us. I'm like, what for? You know what I'm saying? She said, you should be grateful to us because we freed you from slavery. And I remember that was probably the first time I ever felt othered. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, even living in Madison, I didn't feel othered when I was young. But that was the first time. And I remember going home and I said something to mom about it because it really bothered me.
Right.
And I probably didn't even fully understand why that bothered me so much. But she set me straight. She said, oh, no, she gave me a quick history lesson.
Did she really?
She did. And I walked back up to that school with my head held high. Yeah.
You know, I'd had 3 classes with mom at UW. The 3 of us were in school together. Mom went in the early 70s, dropped out, was going to take a week out off, and then it turned into 10 years. But she came back to school when I was about a year and a half from graduating, and you were coming in, I think, as a freshman. But mom and I had 3 classes together. One of them was an Afro-Am. Excuse me. And you and I shared this recently with a local newspaper because they're doing they did a story on mom. But the professor was in the chair of the department was a white gentleman, good professor, but he wasn't ready for a black woman to be in his classroom who was his age. Mm-hmm. And although mom was working on her bachelor's and he had a PhD, like you said, she didn't care who you were. So once he finished his lecture about something horrible that slave owners had done to black women when they were pregnant and just, dug a hole to put her belly in it and all this stuff she did, she raised her hand and said, you know what, I'm tired of you telling me all of this stuff that happened to slaves. I want you to put me in the mindset of a white person who would think that they could do that to another human being.
Yikes.
I've never seen my professor, he was also our advisor, and the chair of the department be so flustered. He was like, what the hell? She took over his class. This key punch operator, this former GM factory worker,
This cotton picker
raised her light-skinned black hand and shut that shit down. She said, because here's what, he couldn't tell her what life was like for a slave.
Mm-hmm.
But what he didn't understand was she was not asking him to explain slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Explain the mentality of white men, white man,
Mm-hmm.
and how he sees black women in their bodies, white man. Talk to me from a place of knowledge, not your PhD, your DNA. Talk to me. He ain't answered that question yet. But just the boldness. After that, kids in the class started sitting next to mom. They started asking her, could they study with her? So people would come in, students who would like ignore me, not that they should have paid attention to me. And in the Afro-Am department in Madison, Wisconsin, we were outnumbered by white people. There were way more white people than black people. I'm telling you,
And
white
professors.
students and professors, white students, black students would sit next to mom in
That's
class.
hilarious.
Because I guess they felt protected, like the professor wasn't going
Right.
to get them. But I remember just thinking, Mama, don't do it, Mom.
Take your hand down,
Don't
Mama.
do it. Don't
Take
do
your
it.
hand down.
Mom, please don't do it, Mama. Mama, please. I got to graduate from this place, Mama. Mama, I want to come back here and teach on the faculty one day. Mama didn't give a damn. She wanted to, no. You done talked about what y'all did to black women one time too many.
Right.
And you know she leaned to one side. You know she kind of leaned to one side. You're like, oh, somebody finna get it. Somebody finna get it. So anyway, now later I learned to be really proud of that moment because students didn't do that, but she understood then, in all honesty, Lilada, but I'm not even sure the department understood. She was addressing white supremacy, patriarchy. She was addressing something that still wasn't addressed, the views of black women by white men. She was calling out the very core of slavery, not just the legality of it or the ending of it, its abolition. She was talking about the engine of it. What was going on in white men's minds that they thought they could have whatever the hell they wanted? Who straps people between horses and rip their bodies apart? Talk to me about the demonology of this. So I'm just saying she would go at the core, and I just think he went back to his office and looked at his fingernails. I just think he looked at his diploma and said, no, I'm the chair. I'm the chair. This high school dropout.
He looked in the mirror.
He looked at the mirror.
I'm the professor.
I'm
the
strong.
professor.
I'm the African Americanist. I'm going to grade her papers.
What she used to say all the time? The crux of the matter. No,
Your whole fallacy. No.
your problem.
No. What is your basic maladjustment?
Your basic maladjustment. So she would like to get to the bottom line of what is messed up with you.
She asked him, what is the basic maladjustment
Yes.
of white men in America? And he's like, So I think, as I know we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes, that's what I want to draw. I feel like, that we got a part of Mom's intellectualism. I don't think I'm as intelligent as she was. I might have gotten some degrees and stuff that she didn't.
Oh, I am.
You certainly got her outspokenness and her shyness. But the boldness to assert the real Verline in any, I call those Verline sightings.
Yeah.
That any place it went down, like
I got that.
Yes.
And you have that too.
I have to be pushed to do it. I think I'm like,
Yeah, I
hope
get there sooner.
Yeah, I'm like, I hope I don't have to go there. This is like what Cedric the
And
Entertainer.
I'm like, I hope.
That's what
I hope I
Remember
have to
Cedric
go
the
there.
Entertainer said that? He says white people say, I hope no one's in our seats. He said black people say, I wish somebody would be in my. He says white people hope, black people wish. So I hope that I don't have to go there, but you wish.
Oh yeah.
You wish, because I know we haven't heard this stuff from Mom. Like if
I
anyone,
don't start it.
but you will finish it.
I will finish it.
Because I don't even think it's there until someone says things that used to tip Mom off, that tip me off. Like if people say, how can I say this in a way that you can understand it? That would
It's
just
over
mom
for
would
you.
just my mom would just start taking her earrings. So she would dismantle your ass. Like, you can't say that to Miss Verline.
And that's your thing too. You hate
No,
it.
not me.
Oh my God, Alex, you hate it when people talk down to you.
I do.
You hate that is
I really
that
do.
is your red button.
Father, forgive me.
Yes,
I
it
have
is.
sinned.
If nothing else, if I hear somebody say something like that to you, or is demeaning in any kind of way, I say, they thought I was the one. Y'all didn't push the wrong button out.
Here it comes,
Because,
here it comes, here
I'll
it
take it
comes.
a little easy on people, but man, you go in.
Wow. So I don't need to wish for that?
No,
Wow.
no.
But because you are outspoken, people forget that what you get from mom is that you'll give the shirt off your back. Like, mom would put herself in harm's way to feed people. She would have families stay with us, families of 5, families that would like break our toys at Christmas while we were at the
All our
Golden
Christmas toys.
Harlem Globetrotters game in 1971, and we come home and find out our Christmas toys broken.
Yeah.
But didn't put them out, So she would let people in. There are a lot of people that are established because of what mom has done. So she had this rough exterior, but she was a social worker before she was a social worker. And I think you get that part from her. I think the things you've done, the time you said you felt moved to give people, like, someone's been struggling and you'll give them some like enormous amount of money. It's like, the lady, you did what? Like you did what? And then like a week later, 5 times that'll come back your way in a whole nother way. Mom was like that too.
She liked to fight for the underdog.
She really did.
And I think she always felt that she was an underdog that wasn't fought for.
Good description. So she would fight for folks.
She fought for the underdog.
Mom probably would have been a good school teacher because she liked to help children read, except for
No,
what?
she wouldn't have
Except
been.
for what, Lilada?
Except for everything. We hated it when she would help us with our homework.
I needed therapy after a homework lesson
God.
with mom.
Oh.
Read this word again. Because she did expect brilliance of us. Because mom was sort of a cross between Mother Teresa and Bobby Knight. Like, so she would love you and coddle you, but if you misread something,
Or didn't get an answer to something that she thought you should know.
oh yes, I hate it.
She
Like,
would've
Mom,
been a
I'll take the feeling great.
horrible
Mom, I'll go to community college. Mom, I don't have to go to college. Mom's okay. Mom, it's okay. I'm good at washing dishes. Mom, I'm good at washing dishes. No. You said everything. She loved the children that didn't mispronounce stuff, who were really trying hard. But she thought, I said, I can't do it. Don't you say that. You got my blood in you. You can do. Don't you dare say you can't do this. You can't read this. Woo!
So that says something about her there. You have my blood in you.
Don't say you can't do it.
So that was her.
Try and fail.
So that was
but
her.
But if you didn't try,
Yeah.
if you didn't try, one thing I'll say, Lilada, because we don't talk about this a lot. This is one piece that I'll put out is Black women who grew up as sharecroppers, who were not raised by their fathers, who were raised by mothers who were not raised by their fathers. It creates an interesting dynamic because many of these mothers will raise sons. Sons will intuitively say, as I did, I don't want to be another male that hurts my mom. So I want to be the ideal person. But I also think that mother's trying to raise a son who will not hurt women. But when that son grows up with her teaching to be a strong man, he has now become something that she's afraid of. A strong man.
Or that she doesn't understand or know.
Doesn't understand or know. So mom and I knocked heads for different reasons because I would stand on principles. I would stand on things that she taught me, and it would really frighten her. She'd get emotional. Like, she would cry on stuff, that's just disheartening, as a kid, seeing your mom do that. But I also
Especially
realized,
if you made her cry. Why did you make mom cry?
because I stood on what she told me. I did what she said. Remember one time we were in a work meeting, and I was my mama's son, her oldest child, her pastor, and her boss. Her boss's boss. And we're in some meeting. I disagreed with something she was saying, and 2 things I just sort of confronted. And she just said, like, in front of my whole staff, like, I have an opinion. Do you have a problem with that? I said, and my whole staff is sitting there. I said,
Yikes.
no. I have opinion too, but I also have authority. Do you have a problem with that?
Wow.
Yeah, things weren't quite the same after.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, this is what Lil feels like. And so- but that's a tough thing to say to you. Jeremy, have you ever said that to your mother in front of your peers and hers?
No.
Now, let me tell you, I would never say get out of my room. Did you ever say that?
No.
You said, I'm not from that part of Pennsylvania. But I wouldn't say get out of my room or I hate you. But in front of my staff, I'm like, Mama, you taught me to be this man with backbone. You're not going to try to like punk me out. Like, you ain't going to like try to mama me down. You going to mama boy me in front. Mama, I pay these people salaries. Now, I'll come to you afterwards and Mama, I hate to hurt your feelings, but I got the mic. Like, you can't beat a comedian that's got a mic in their hand. Because just, you can always just, that was tough for me though. Because I did feel like I hurt her feelings, but I had to establish who I was. But that person frightened her. But that person was a product of her strength. That's what she would have said to her mother. That's what she would have said to her father. She said it to her mother and her father in so many ways when they tried to teach her how to parent or say something. So
But
we-
I
we
think
saw her
that's who
do
she
that.
wanted you to be, though, Alex.
I believe it. But when I became it,
but when you became it, it was something that she wasn't used to.
she wasn't used to.
Because,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
And nothing was edited out. It's just that we just read each other's minds. And so
Yeah.
I think we let them into the G closet enough. They didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't need to see everything.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time you can see the boots and the jackets,
Yeah.
but you don't. But you don't have to see the unmentionables.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. The closet's closed.
Yeah.
Listen. I got to get to some places. You got to get to some places. But there is this huge vacuum, and I'll just leave this last piece with you, Lilada. Black moms in America have just been the backbone of our community, and so I think that's why we're feeling this loss of presence, because she wasn't just our mother; she was other people's surrogate mother, surrogate mom, but she was also a strong and proven and older Black American mom who's just so is the epitome of the strong Black woman that's just built Black communities. And I'm hoping that we continue to see strong mothers who hopefully don't have to fight as much as she did because they get more support. But do you think that that's a fair assessment, that what we're grieving is the loss of that ilk of Black mother who's lived through what she's lived through, who's done what she's done, invested in others, and then said, oh, I want to go back and get some education for myself? That's part of what we're missing. There's this image, this persona that's bigger than life that's slipping away in this era, in our time.
I would say yes, 100%.
When my friend's mom would pass away and I would help with memorial services, and we go, and then Jack would say, so what are you going to do now? I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do tonight, but what I'm going to do right now is go get my mom and hug her. Like that, whenever, when people lost their moms, I would go and do that. So I would just say to people who are listening, go across town, get a plane ticket, get a bus ticket, gas your car up, but go hug your mom, hug your parents, call people, let them know that you love them. That as much work as it was to take mom to appointments and all the things that she did because she was frail and lost weight and couldn't communicate with us, even as that frail yet strong person slipped away, and I'm so fortunate that we were able to be in the room, to be there, to be holding her. That little old lady left a huge vacuum in the world. And so it might seem like stuff is burdensome now, but I'm telling you, you're going to notice that. And what I feel compelled to do is to live out the lesson. So talking about these things, asking these questions, makes me think about what she told me when she was trying to help me with 6th grade math. Her blood is still in me. She's not here, but her blood is still in me. And there is, although I get lauded for doing a lot of things and being innovative and a self-starter, there's still a lot more in me that I want to present. And not out of perfectionism, but just out of being authentic in who I am. And I hope that you live into that too, Lilada, because that blood runs in you. And I hope that you live into some more of your great personality and your brilliance and your artistic uniqueness. I hope that you continue to press to exhibit those things. But I feel very motivated because I'm going to treat the 60 like the new 30.
Yes.
At 30, mom said, I don't have to work for Motorola. Wait, they're going to pay me? Because, the student financial aid package was good in 1970. They were trying to get them black students.
Yeah.
And so that was mom's job. But to just go in a new direction, in a new world with people almost half her age and not be intimidated. I'm not going to be intimidated by people much older, much richer, more successful. I'm not going to be intimidated. If mom navigated this world with the precision and commitment that she did all those years ago, I need to make sure that I'm not half stepping. And my challenge is to live that out. And I want to offer that challenge to you too.
So can I share something?
Sure.
So as you were talking about this kind of thing earlier, I thought about my present situation. Last year I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer.
Right.
And it's been a journey, to say the least. But when you were talking about mom earlier and how she required life to give more to her than what people maybe thought she deserved. That's how I'm terming it. That's how I'm kind of summing that up. It made me, in that moment, as we were speaking, say, man, I have to, in this season of my life, require more of life, require more of myself, require more than what maybe I think or the doctors think I should have or hope for in this season of time. And I really believe that when your foremothers and forefathers pass, that there is a mantle that falls down on you, and what I hope, and I think about, like, what would mom do? And I have never thought about this because she was sick by the time I was diagnosed, so I never had a mom through that journey.
Right.
And I think about, what would mom do if this was her reality? How would she go through it? And I know she would go through it bravely, and she'd be strong, and she would seek to defeat all of the naysayers and what the doctor said. And I hope that I can live that out. I hope I can live out that boldness. I hope I can do that.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I think you can.
And so that's what I want to take, that boldness to ask more of life than what I think I deserve or can have at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she leaves behind strength.
Yes.
For me and you to do those things.
And you deserve it, and we need it, Lilada. We need it. I need you to do that. And Lilada, you're putting out some powerful stuff out there, and I want you to lean into that. But I also want you to know you can do that. In some ways, you already are.
Thank you.
When you want to travel, your doctor's like, I don't think you can be out of the country because we want to do blood tests. You found a way to have procedures done. So now doctors are telling other doctors at conferences, if you have a patient, this is what you can do. Like, you're already changing the way people care for folks with cancer diagnosis. You're already doing those kinds of things, not to mention living positively and taking care of yourself, so that you're continuing to have good follow-ups. But I want you to lean into that even more, because you're right. That's what mom would have done. She would have read up.
Yeah.
She would have looked at alternative kinds of things, the very things that you're doing. But she would not have crawled into a little ball and sobbed herself away. And that's not what you've chosen to do. She would turn her story into something that helps people, which is what you're doing. And so I just want you to continue doing what you're doing, because you can think to yourself, what will mom do? But you are intuitively doing what mom did.
Thank you.
Ooh, that was really powerful. So listen, I don't want to say anything else behind that other than just a few things. I really appreciate my sister being here with me today. Our faith our connection, our love for each other, love for our mom has really helped us in this process. One of the things that Lilada and I are doing, because we're both building this incredible Center for Black Excellence in Culture in Madison. It's a place for innovation, for cultural celebration, intergenerational gathering, fine art space, innovation, leadership development space, and artistic expression. It's going to be space that's going to proliferate Black achievement and Black perseverance. And Mom, and having Alzheimer's, inspired us to build senior space inside this center. I was thinking about that recently, Lilada, that if our mom weren't sick, we probably would have thought about, well, we could use that space for a gym. We can draw. But we said, no, what happens to Black youth in our community?
Black seniors.
Right. But we would have thought about juniors.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's put basketball, because everyone's thinking about juniors, and we should.
Right.
But older Black people, this is probably true for other folks, but because we notice our Black elders and seniors, they just seem to disappear. Mm-hmm. Where are they? Where do they go? Did they just sit in the house? Where do they go? Well, we're building space for them to come.
Yes.
Walkers, wheelchairs, they can drive, they can park, they can volunteer, they can walk through the center, they can take classes. So Mom has inspired that, because I hope that this would be a place that she could even come, even in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. But Mom will be in the center because we're creating a tribute to her inside this space. And so I just want my listeners to know that there's a link inside the reader notes that can take you to a page that will allow you, if you want to just contribute to the Verline Gee tribute in this space, where every donation, 100%, will go to building out this senior space so that they can interact with youth, but also interact with themselves. And it will also go towards programming.
That's right.
For seniors. And so even if they're in the early stages of dementia, we want Black people to have a place to come. My vision is that people can come and hang out, even when their caregivers need a little break. I want them to come and be around that energy.
Yes.
And so if you'd like to be a part of making history and part of helping us honor our mom, just click that link, find out more about the center. But we have it'll take you right to a page where you can make a donation. And we're going to recognize everyone who does that, and also send them a copy of Mom's poetry book. And so we just want to offer you that opportunity. Thank you so much for being our listeners. Thank you for being a part of the space that I've created so that I can bare my heart, talk about my conscience, air out my convictions, and just work through life issues of what it means to be Black in America today. So share this episode, because I know you know someone who needs to hear it. Listen to it again. Share it out on your social media. Write a review. Subscribe to the podcast so that you're updated when new episodes come out. Click our link to become a supporter of through Patreon. But thank you for listening and for making this such special space for me and for my family. So have a great day. Lean in and become a part of the change that you really want to see in the world. Thank you so much for being a part of Black Like Me podcast with Dr. Alex Gee.
Black Like Me. Black like me.
I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this episode of Black Like Me podcast with Dr. Alex Gee. You know, when I first imagined doing this podcast, I thought about myself with my iPhone sitting in a room in my house, just sort of doing this all on my own. But you know what? The reason why we've won awards and the reason why we have over 200 episodes up is because I have a brilliant team who helps me to make this podcast what it is. So let me take a moment and thank Jeremy and Eli, who are my editors and producers extraordinaire, Jakisha, who handles marketing. If you like that opening track of our theme song, you can show your appreciation to Corey Saffold, who created that and produced it, and Marcus Fleming, my cousin, who's on vocals. I also want to say that this podcast was started with the generous support of the Human Family Unity Foundation, and so we always want to stop and thank them for that. For the many patrons who support us through our Patreon page, thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't just listen, but you support, you lean in, and you help this podcast to be what it is. And then I need to thank you, the listeners, who make a point of downloading this, listening to it, and sharing it. Without all of you, this podcast would not be what it is and what it's becoming. Thank you so much.
Black like me.